My goodness, this is why we love the beautiful game of football. I mean, where do I even start? Where do I even start with this game? I almost skipped this. I almost skipped this game. I was about to, do some research for some videos I'm working on, but I was like, you know what? I've been seeing Sunderland play. I've not really, watched them fully. I've been seeing them cooking in the league. They're high up there. Arsenal, they need to keep the consistency and play in the league and keep, that form so that they can win the league. So I was thinking, you know what? Something could happen today. Something could happen. I even said it in my Manchester United versus Spurs match reaction that if Arsenal versus Sunderland get a draw today, United are going to benefit from it. And what a game. From minute 1 to minute 97, 98, 99, it was brilliant. I mean, props to Sunderland. And before I do get into this, I want to talk about Arsenal a little bit. And I want to give them credit because most teams, I believe, most teams in the Premier League probably would have dropped 3 points against Sunderland today. I think Sunderland would have been able to go to almost every team. I mean, if you're able to go to Arsenal and get a draw, I think Sunderland would have been able to go to any team in the Premier League today. If they came to Sunderland's home, they would have been able to get 3 points against them. The intensity, the directness, the approach they had going into this game, Sunderland, was very, very impressive. So I think if you're an Arteta, if you are an Arsenal player, if you are, an Arsenal fan, you look at this game and think, you know what, this is the best result you could have gotten from the game. Because I think if you look at this and compare it to last season Arsenal, they probably dropped 3 points. They probably lose against the Sunderland team, Arsenal, last season. So I think this is a positive result for Arsenal because they had that mentality, they had that, mindset to go into the second half, go into the first half break and come into the second half, have that mindset to go for the game and actually get, put themselves in a position where they can get 3 points in the game. And I think Sunderland were just resilient. I mean, in the closing stages of the game, Saka puts a really good cross into the box. Calafiori gets ahead and the goalkeeper is making saves. The ball is bouncing around the box. A lot of rebound. Sunderland defenders are throwing themselves into blocks, making defensive clearances. And that resilience is very difficult. It's very difficult to beat a team that has such resilience. So again, Arsenal, very, very positive, very, very positive performance today. And I think it's going to give them that boost to think, this is where the manager, being a good manager comes in. This is where being a good motivator comes in as a manager, because this is going to indirectly, it's going to affect the Arsenal players because they would feel like they had, battled, in a sense, a win, or they had battled 3 points. But again, as I said, if you're an Arteta or if you're a manager in that dressing room, you look at our Arsenal players and you tell them, chin up, raise your head up. You've done yourself proud today. Last season, we probably dropped 3 points and we probably lose this game. So to get a draw in this game for Arsenal, very, very good. I mean, they played well. Arsenal are always going to play well. This season, Arsenal are always going to play well. And keep in mind, they played a Champions League game just midweek as well. So it's not as if they haven't played a game this week. It's not as if they've had only one game this week, or this is the only game that they had this week. They literally played a Champions League game midweek. So again, lots of credits to Arsenal for their performance. And as I said, if it was last season Arsenal, they probably dropped 3 points rather than 2. And I think it is an improvement. I mean, you went to Sunderland's home. What were you expecting? They've been playing very well this season. Now, on to Sunderland. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this. Minute 1, start of the game, they were intense. They were going for the ball, 50-50, going into tackles, high pressing, high line. And I was like, this is dangerous. I've seen Arsenal play this season against teams that have opened up against them. And, it's been scary. We saw that against Atletico when they got that goal against Atletico and they had to open up. We saw what they did to that Atletico backline. So I've seen what Arsenal can do against a team that is going to open up and going to apply that press and apply that high line against them. And Sunderland, for some reason today, were effective in their press, effective in their intensity. It's chaos, but it's organized chaos. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It looks disorganized and organized at the same time. They have, such a collection of good physical players that are able to keep that intensity for a good period of time. And obviously they weren't able to do it for the full 90, and new players had to come in, but they were able to keep that for a good period of time. And I mean, granted, Xhaka, I think people are probably now going to see how effective he was and how important he was in that Leverkusen side that won the title and went unbeaten. I really, really think, he is such a good player. And so I think he's going to be Sunderland's player of the season. I really, really do think so. And I mean, definitely Sunderland are going to be staying. It would be a surprise if Sunderland don't stay in the Premier League now. The players they've brought in, and I remember when I was doing my transfer ratings video tier list kind of thing, I put Sunderland up there. They're definitely up there in terms of the players that they've brought in. Not just the players they've brought in, not just the names of players they've brought in or the amount of money they spent, the quality of players they've brought in. You look at teams like Nottingham Forest, where they've spent on players like, who just have the name, who just have the status and all of that. But the actual quality, I think Nordi Mukiele was good today. Granit Xhaka was good today. Brian Brobbey comes off the bench, gets the equalizer. A lot of good players all around in that Sunderland team where they've brought in, as new transfers, making your debut season as well in the Premier League. It's as I said this in the Spurs versus United match reaction on Benjamin Sesko. It's very difficult for a player to come from a different league into the Premier League, especially, and do very well. So to have a collection of players who have come from different leagues to play in the Premier League for a team that just recently got promoted. Keep in mind, Sunderland are not a, formerly Premier League team. They're not a team that have been in the Premier League for, a period of time. They recently just got this season, they got promoted this season, but from the way they're playing, you probably think they've been in the Premier League for a while now. So it's very impressive that they have been able to get these collection of players that are able to come into the Premier League and play as well as they're playing. Because to come up against this Arsenal, Bayern Munich drew today, so probably people are going to say, it's just one of those days where the top teams are going to drop points. But I think it would be unfair to say that Sunderland didn't play well today. I really do think Sunderland were really, really good. I was on the edge of my seat, and I wasn't expecting that coming up in the game against Sunderland versus Arsenal, because I thought they were going to defend. I thought they were going to park the bus. And I really did think so. But again, on Sunderland, because as I said, the only thing I can say about Arsenal is that they played well. I can't really analyze Arsenal's game because I think the spotlight is going to be on Sunderland. I think anyone that's going to come into this, take away from this game that, Arsenal have battled this or Arsenal have dropped significant points against Sunderland are going to be, it's going to be unfair to the effort that Sunderland puts into this game. I really do think so. But I think although Sunderland did make some mistakes, the passing out from the back, the kind of lackluster defending, I think it was just due to a fact of they haven't played a team of, Arsenal's quality yet. But despite those mistakes, despite those errors that they made leading to goal, they were still in a, able to pick themselves up and go forward to do what they've done today. And I think it's a really, really big point for Sunderland because it's at home to Arsenal. If you go to Arsenal and you lose or you draw, getting a draw at Arsenal's home will be very, very impressive if they can do that. But if they go to Arsenal's home now and they lose, they're like, it's not that bad. It really isn't that bad, especially for a team that got promoted. Keep in mind, they are a team that just got recently promoted. But what a game. The approach. This was one of those games where I didn't even have the time to sit down and make notes. I didn't have the time to sit down and be like, what, this is how it's happening. A player made this. I couldn't have that time because it was almost a edge of my seat moment where, I couldn't really decide what's going to happen because Sunderland were playing well. Arsenal were trying to get that equalizer, when they lost the ball, trying to pass out from the back, which I guess a lot of teams trying to pass out from the back. I don't know what kind of pandemic is going on with teams trying to pass out from the back when you can't do it. When you pass the ball, and there's no one to receive the ball. Just clear it, just clear it. But again, fortunately for Sunderland, it didn't lead to them, losing the game. Again, a point in a situation like this against a team like this is definitely something big for Sunderland. But I think to just wrap things up for Arsenal, it's a positive. It's not the biggest positive, but it is a positive nonetheless because, as I said, last season Arsenal probably dropped 3 points. If you're an Arsenal fan, this is the kind of angle you should be probably looking at things from. Last season, the way Sunderland played today, if it was last season's Arsenal, they probably dropped 3 points. They probably lose this game. So to go from 1-0 down to Sunderland and being, on the back foot against Sunderland, to coming into the second half and playing very well and getting those 2 goals and putting yourself in a position where you are in front, of Sunderland, it's very positive. And I know some people are going to talk about Arteta, making defensive changes. The intensity Sunderland were playing, if Arteta didn't make those defensive changes, Arsenal probably lose this game as well. I think that's also something people are going to overlook because the changes Arteta made weren't necessary. They really weren't necessary because Arsenal were, being pegged back by Sunderland with the amount of press, the amount of intensity, and the amount of, chances that Sunderland were creating. So Arteta needed to make that sub because it was necessary. And I don't think it was a sub to just try and see out the game. It was just a sub to just contain the game and, basically just see out the game. But I don't think that was the main focus. But at the moment, Arsenal with 26 points, City with 19, Sunderland with 19 points. They're definitely staying up. I think from this point, it would be outrageous to see Sunderland getting relegated at the moment. But yeah, my prediction of a Premier League team staying up this season actually came to pass. And I wanted to predict Sunderland, but I wasn't sure because obviously I haven't watched Sunderland play last season. But yeah, I think it's definitely a positive for Sunderland, and it's not the worst results for Arsenal because again, away from home at Sunderland, coming up against a team with this much intensity, with this much approach to want to get something from this game. Even in the 98th minute, literally the last second of the game, you could see from the way Sunderland were playing, they didn't want to draw. They wanted to get 3 points. And to come up against a team with that mentality is very difficult to face a team like that. So I think with Arsenal, you would be, you would feel a little bit hard done by, but I don't think it is the worst. I don't think it's the worst result out there. It's definitely something that they can build on. I mean, Chelsea versus Wolverhampton Wanderers, it would be interesting to see if Wolverhampton Wanderers can do something, but I don't think it's going to be something extra, but I will be watching it. I am a watcher of football. Definitely I'm a watcher of football. But yeah, I think this has been a really good game. This is what you want to see in football. I'm always a fan of teams that are, risk takers. They're not going to face other teams scared. They're always willing to get something, especially when you're at home. I said this in the Spurs United game. When you're at home to a team, the most you can do or the least you can do is put on a performance for your fans. Put on a performance that your fans can look at and say, you know what, even though we lost or even though we drew this game, there is something we can take from this game that is positive. Going to your home and playing pragmatically is not the way to go. It really isn't. So I've been very impressed with Sunderland, and I think I'm going to be watching more Sunderland games. Definitely, I am going to be watching more Sunderland games. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys think that Arsenal bottled this? I really don't think so. I think this was one of those days. One of those days where you come up against a team that wants it a little bit more than you do. I think that was the situation in this game. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. As usual, any feedback from you guys would be greatly appreciated.